Welcome on into Garage Takes. Do us a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button here on the channel. Hop in the comment section down below. Let us know, Lions fans, how are you feeling after a win against the Commanders? Dan Campbell brought out the glasses on Sunday, and it seemed to have worked. It seemed like maybe that's one of the things that was missing. Brant, I kind of want to know your thoughts on that. I mean, I maybe didn't understand. I feel like either you and I talked on the phone about this, or we did it on the podcast last week. I honestly don't remember, but we talked about how this offense was lacking something. Like there was clearly like missing Ben Johnson, where like all the pre-snap motion, all the stuff to get the run game going, it was like it's become evident as the season's gone on that they've missed that. And then sure enough, man, I mean, I had not heard before the game that Dan Campbell was going to be calling the plays, but clearly the glasses were brought out. Dan calls the plays and the offense just started humming again. And I don't know how you can go back from that. The Lions just looked like they had a little bit more juice. You get Gibbs involved and get him involved in ways where he can truly thrive. Same with Jamo as well. And look, I mean, that's a huge win prior to a massive game at Philly, Sunday Night Football coming up here. But Brandon, I want to know your thoughts initially on this Lions team, what you saw on Sunday, and if you're feeling any better moving forward.
Dave, I am feeling a little bit better, but everybody knows you have to preface with this is a Commanders team that's a little bit broken right now. This is not the Commanders that went to the NFC Championship game last year. So let's pump the brakes on who they just beat down. But saying that, they absolutely beat them down. They did what they needed to. And you're right, Dave. It looked like it got that juice back. It looked like they got that spark. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you brought up Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, that was somebody that was obviously missing against the Vikings. And for the only reason you can think is obviously we talked about the pass pro stuff last week. Well, this week, Dan put him in situations where he didn't have to pass pro. You know, he did the exact thing that we talked about, Dave. Get your best players in space and let them do what they do best, which is run really fast and score touchdowns. So that's what Jamo did, and that is exactly what Jahmyr Gibbs did to the tune of 3 touchdowns.
Absolutely. Well, and I also think, Brandon, it comes at a perfect time because if they would have, you're right, they beat a Commanders team that is beat up, that is not very good. But if they come into that game and obviously if they lose it, but B, if they come and kind of limp their way through that and get a win, when you've got to go play against another top dog in the NFC on the road next week, you need this thing to have a little bit of juice. And I do feel like it came at the perfect time.
I want to touch on the juice thing too because I think this team needed someone to talk smack to them. I think they needed to get punched in the mouth a little bit, even though the Commanders are struggling right now. The Lions and Commanders knew what the divisional round was last year. So I think that game was a 30-point game, whatever it was, but it had the feel of a touchdown game the entire time because of the chippiness. And I don't necessarily think that Detroit maybe started any of the chippiness, but they sure as heck didn't back down, Dave. And that was refreshing to see too. They came to get a W, but they ended up in a bar fight. And, they held their own. So that was refreshing to see too. And, you hit on the Dan Campbell point and the Johnny Morton. They will figure that piece out. I don't know. He still serves a role on this team. I mean, Dan even said that as much. He's not going to say he doesn't have a role here anymore, obviously. But I think since Ben Johnson had left, this offense maybe was looking for, I wouldn't say necessarily a leader, Dave, but some sort of spark. Like they needed some sort of momentum to go their way. And I think that Dan Campbell is a good play caller. I think that he is a good offensive mind. And I think you can tell between him and Ben Johnson, some of the stuff that they came up with and what Ben Johnson's doing in Chicago currently, you can tell he knows what he's doing. So it was an embarrassment of riches last year, but this year I think you're going to be just fine. But the Lions have got to stay consistent. We are going to have to see back-to-back performances. You talked about the game going into Philly next weekend. Massive game. Philly's struggling right now. So now is a good time to get them, but going into Philly, never an easy task.
No, it's not. And I do want to give Dan his flowers a bit because, I think that all of the, we know coming, through the offseason, obviously the Lions lost both Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. Big storylines. They both go on to become head coaches, Jets and Bears. And it was like, well, we'll see, right? Like we know how Ben Johnson's exit looked, and we're like, well, we'll see. Was it Ben or was it Dan? Well, Ben Johnson to start the year in Chicago. Look, the Bears struggled, and they are absolutely starting to hum along now on offense, even though it came on late this past week. And so, kind of to what you were saying, like the Dan and Ben effect, you can see like Ben Johnson is legit. I'm not questioning him. Who's also legit? Well, look, when the season started, I'm like, dude, you could throw anybody in there. This offense is like Johnny Morton. It's like they didn't miss a step. They may have even looked better. And then it was like came back down to earth quite a bit, and we really started questioning this offense. And so, the talk was this Ben Johnson's offense or was it Dan Campbell's offense? And I think the answer is it's probably Dan's, but I think both those guys have great offensive minds, and you got to feel really good as a Lions fan knowing that your head man here, Dan Campbell, he's the heart and soul of this offense, not just the team, but the offense. Go ahead.
Dave, it's funny that you say that because I don't think Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson being who they were, nobody really knew their identities. It's not like when you sit down and you can watch an Andy Reid offense and say that, oh, that's an Andy Reid offense because I've seen it for 20 years. Same with Josh McDaniels. Like these guys just, when you see their offense, you know when you see it. So I think now that it's been established in the NFL, I think you're correct, Dave, in saying no matter where Dan Campbell ends up, whether he coaches the Lions for the next 20 years or he's some sort of head coach somewhere else, or I think we know his offensive identity. And it is it's really good. And I think it comes with a bag of tricks too, which is really cool to see. I think the Lions are in a prime position still to win the NFC, but I have liked that they've gotten punched in the mouth a little bit. They've kind of went through their identity crisis, week 10, whatever it is, 11. I think now is a good time to have this instead of 5 weeks from now when you're heading into the playoffs. I just think it's all systems go right now for Detroit. And I do want to quickly touch on the defense because I think this has kind of been lost in this whole thing, Dave, and they gave up some points to the Commanders a little bit. But I think that this defense is good enough to win a Super Bowl. And I guess that's where my question is for you, Dave. Do you think that this defense, we talked about sitting on the hands at the trade deadline, not going out and getting a huge star like a Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Quinnen Williams, like anybody like that. Do you think that this defense is built for the Super Bowl? Because I actually do think they're a Super Bowl legit defense.
I think the defense is good enough to win a Super Bowl. If that's a weak answer, I'll explain why. I think they're good enough. I don't think that they're going to win a Super Bowl because of their defense. I think that this team goes through their offense, but I think Calvin Duchep has done a great job stepping in as the defensive coordinator there. They have been consistently banged up just like they were last year. I think they're fine. I do have concerns. I don't feel great about our depth back there in the secondary. But again, I do think that they're good enough. I still stand by my point. And look, like just because they come off a win against the Commanders, a team they should have beat, I still feel strongly that they should have made a move or two to bolster some depth on this team at the trade deadline. I think they missed the boat on that, but I think the defense is good enough. I don't think that they are a liability. I don't think they're the reason why they lose, but I don't think they're the reason why they win either. I think they're fine. They're good enough. But if this team wins the Super Bowl, it's because Jared Goff is playing mistake-free football. The cohesiveness is there. You get your best playmakers the ball, and you got a lot of them, by the way, in Gibbs and St. Brown and Jamo and Sam Laporta getting more and more involved. We haven't even talked about Monty yet. He hasn't even gotten going. So, look, I think they win a Super Bowl. That's why. But the defense is just good enough for me. What about you?
I think it's funny because I think this defense is like top 10, but I feel comfortable saying like they're number 10. Like, it's just kind of funny like that. And the other thing that I'll say real quick, you mentioned Shep. One thing that I've kind of heard in circles and some of the content I take in, Dave, is that he's like a legit contender for some of these major college programs that have opened up. And that doesn't surprise me. He's a younger coach, very relatable to the players. if you watch him on Hard Knocks at all, like that was like a real in depth look at him. He brings that fire and passion. I think that he would. I think he could definitely run a program, but I think that speaks to Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell that you can kind of roll coordinators through here and not really skip a beat. And I mean, obviously, Aaron Glenn has taken his punches this NFL season, but the Jets, a couple wins in a row. Like, so I think this just speaks to the bigger part that as long as you have the Holmes Campbell connection, everything in Detroit will be just fine, even if Shep does end up taking like one of those major college jobs.
I totally agree. It's what you see with the best franchises in football. And so on that note, Lions fans, hop in the comment section. Let us know how you're feeling after this Commanders win. Let us know what you're thinking about this upcoming game against the Eagles, and hit that subscribe button as always here on Garage Takes.